What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Dude Hines Show. We are just 2 days away from the 2022 NFL Draft, and joining me today to talk about all things NFL Draft is Alex Robson from the Warzone Sports Network. How you doing today, Alex?
Man, I am fired up. You said the magic number. 2 more days until one of my favorite days of the entire sports year. The NFL Draft right around the corner. I'm fired up. I know a lot of other people are too. I'm ready to jump right into it, man.
It's really weird because, this draft season, I would say to me, is easily the fastest draft season of all time. It does not seem like it's just 2 days at all. It seems like it should still be 2 months. And draft day is always my favorite day of the year. I like it more than Christmas. I like it more than my birthday. I like it more than the start of the regular season of the NFL. But for whatever reason, I'm excited about the draft, but I feel like this season, I'm just not really into it as much. I feel like a part of it is because the Bengals actually had a decent year this past year. We're not picking top 5, top 10 picks this season. But, your New York Jets, they have 2 top 10 picks. And I've said before, the Jets are one of my favorite teams heading into the 2022 season. And there's lots of interesting picks and players who could be picked by New York within the top 10. But they're also in the discussions for Deebo Samuel, the wide receiver for San Francisco, to possibly try to get him. So what are your thoughts on the situation with Deebo Samuel?
Man, I hope he gets traded to the Jets, man. And I feel like if he gets traded at all, it will be to the Jets. They've already shown how willing they are to make a trade for a star wide receiver. They have shown that when they have pursued Tyreek Hill. And if you look at the package that the New York Jets had accepted for Tyreek Hill compared to the Dolphins, it's absolutely night and day. The Jets would have still had pick 1, pick 4, and pick 10 in the draft, and Tyreek Hill. That would have been absolutely insane to see what Joe Douglas could have done with that. That would have been pretty incredible, in my opinion, adding more depth to the defense, however you want to do it. Sadly, didn't work out. Deebo Samuel sounds like it'll come more at a price, but I think myself and a lot of other Jet fans can say we are at the point now where we don't care. We just want Deebo Samuel on this roster. We feel like, as Jet fans, Deebo Samuel's speed and electricity as a wide receiver mixed with the arm talent of Zack Wilson would give him that year 2 leap that is required to make for Jet fans that are not as sure about Zack Wilson to really see him as that franchise quarterback. I personally have no doubts in my mind. I think Zack Wilson showed out last year, despite the situation being rough down the stretch of last season. But getting Deebo Samuel on this roster would be awesome. And I feel like in the end of the day, the New York Jets will be the home of Deebo Samuel. I feel like they will give up what the 49ers are looking for. I do think it will require them to give up pick 10. But at this point, I'm 100% fine with that. I think you make that move, you get an established star wide receiver rather than relying on a wide receiver drafted to turn out. I feel like it is definitely more of the safe bet to just acquire Deebo, but get him as the star wide receiver and see what he can do from there, rather than going into the draft and hoping and praying that the second best wide receiver, more likely in the class, turns out, because sadly they're not going to get Garrett Wilson, in my opinion.
And, when you look at, Deebo Samuel, he only has 1 year's contract, and that's something else. Deebo Samuel wants a ton of money, but the Jets are one of those teams who can give him that type of money because they're going to have tons of cap space in the 2023 season. That's something you can't say for the Packers, and you also can't say for the Chiefs. 2 teams who are also interested in Deebo Samuel. There's already kind of connection there with Robert Saleh coming from San Francisco. Lots of the staffs from San Francisco. Makes a lot of sense. I would agree. There's one team that really stands out to me. It's definitely the Jets. And you mentioned Zack Wilson, Deebo Samuel. Holy crap. I mean, I'm not even a Jets fan, but I want to see that so freaking bad. That has potential to be amazing. Zack Wilson's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, and I don't get why people are already ready to write him off. I think that's so stupid because when you look at towards the end of the season, he was really starting to get going, and you give him a deep ball threat like Samuel, that can get the offense really, really good. And you mentioned you're better off getting an established wide receiver instead of drafting one. I completely agree because, speaking of the Jets, in the 2020 draft, they drafted Denzel Mims, the wide receiver from Baylor, who I wanted the Bengals to get so bad at 33. I wanted Denzel Mims over T. Higgins. Obviously, looking back, that was so stupid of me, but I thought Denzel Mims was going to be good. Obviously, he has not lived up to the hype of being a second-round pick. So you're better off getting someone who's established and is already proven to be a good player in the NFL than opposed to getting another Mims at 10. So I'm excited. I mean, obviously, I know you're excited about possibly Samuel going to the Jets, but it should be very, very interesting, what happens for Deebo Samuel in the next coming days. And when you look at the Jets, like I said, they have picks 4 and 10. So what do you think like the draft plans for New York should be as we head closer to the 2022 draft?
I think the obvious plan for me at pick 4 anyway is definitely edge rusher, and you are having your heat-seeking missiles on Kayvon Thibodeau. This was a guy that at the beginning of the season we thought was the surefire, no doubt in the mind, he's going to be the first overall pick. Then some reports come out saying that people are wondering about his commitment to football, which I feel like is just complete bogus. I really don't see what people are talking about there. He is one of these new age players that also cares about, aside from the game of football and being a great football player, he wants to build his own brand. And all of a sudden we have a problem with that when we look at a guy like Tom Brady. Tom Brady has his own brand. Why are we not harking on him? Because he cares about himself a little bit as well. I feel like it's completely ridiculous talking about if Kayvon Thibodeau is committed to football or not. I think there's no doubt in my mind he is. Now, I've heard all the smoke and mirrors talking about the Jets thinking about Ike Ekwonu at pick 4, talking about Sauce Gardner at 4. While I would love Sauce Gardner on this team, and while I'm okay with Ike Ekwonu as a player, if the Jets go offensive tackle with the 4th overall pick, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be very, very upset. And that's going to start making me look at Joe Douglas and being like, dude, what are you doing already? Because just a few years ago, about 3 years ago at this point, he drafted Mekhi Becton. And I know Mekhi Becton was a star his rookie year and then got injured his second year. I'm not ready to write off Mekhi Becton yet. I do question a little bit his work ethic, and it does scare me that he's not coming in for optional camps. But from what I'm hearing, he's doing it because his wife's getting ready to have a kid, and I'm just like, okay, that sounds like a pretty viable excuse, in my opinion, to not be able to come. But personally, I feel like if the Jets go that way, I'm going to be very, very upset. With pick 4, I think it's got to be the top edge rusher on the board. I would not be opposed to the Jets at maybe trading back with a team like maybe Seattle to come up and they want to take Malik Willis. If Kayvon Thibodeau's out there, us trading back and getting Jermaine Johnson. I like Jermaine Johnson, but not really at pick 4. But I would understand if they made that move if Kayvon Thibodeau or Trayvon Walker is not there, because I think Aiden Hutchinson is going in the top 3. I feel like pick 1 and pick 2, it's going to be either Hutchinson or Walker. Whoever Jacksonville doesn't take, Detroit's taking. And I feel like offensive tackle, in my opinion, is locked in at Evan Neal, pick 3. So I think Jets go edge rusher. And then if they don't get Debo, it's going to be wide receiver with pick 10. Either going to be Garrett Wilson if somehow Atlanta doesn't take him, or a guy like Drake London. I'm also on the train to trade back from that pick and get Treylon Burks in the later rounds. I really like his potential with the Jets offense. His ability mixture with speed and strength mixed with Zack Wilson, I feel like would be a great duo. And him in Michael LaFleur's offense, I think would be a lot of fun as well. But either way you slice it, the first pick should be edge rusher, and the second pick should be wide receiver, barring that the Jets do not get Debo Samuel.
You mentioned some of those top wide receivers like Garrett Wilson, but you didn't mention Jamison Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. Would you want the Jets to get him?
I mean, I like Jamison Williams. I think he's going to be a really good player, but part of me that scares me is that injury history. That ACL tear, I don't care what kind of technology we have in the world that can make those injuries not as scary. That injury still scares me, especially when your primary trait coming into the NFL is your speed and athleticism. That's going to be hurt by an ACL tear. I don't care what anybody says. Look what it did to a guy like Carson Wentz. This man was dominating, was at MVP form just a few years ago. Blows out that knee and has never been the same since. How much you want to put that on Wentz, the injury, or maybe even how the Eagles were able to build around him? I'll leave up for you, but I personally believe it's more the Eagles' fault than anybody else. But I feel like that injury is still significant and have a major, major effect on a player. And I don't know how anyone else feels about this, but I feel like if you're drafting a guy at 10 that you want to be your star wide receiver, I would like them to come in immediately and already start building a chemistry with my second-year quarterback who I'm relying to be the franchise. I would not be a huge fan of him joining already 4 weeks in where the Jets could possibly be 0-4, 1-3, 2-3, whatever. I would definitely like my number 1 wide receiver to be on the field week 1 and be ready. And from what I'm hearing, I know he sounds like he's ahead of schedule, but that's not going to sound like it's the case at the moment, and I'm not a fan of that personally. Love the talent, but that injury, I'm not a huge fan of drafting that.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And something else, this kind of sounds weird. Let's say the Jets go 3-0, 4-0, and then you add Jamison Williams. Oh, you get another target. That could be very good, but at the same time, could also kind of mess up your chemistry. You got a good thing going, then he comes in, and you don't know how to put him in the offense. I like that, what you said there. And that's somebody, Jamison Williams, if it wasn't for his injury, I would say would probably be the top wide receiver taken. Matt Corral, another guy who's been injured. If it wasn't for injuries, he would be taking much, much, much higher in the draft. Some would say he might even be the first quarterback taken in the draft. There's 5 quarterbacks here, pretty much who are possible first-round picks here in the draft. So where do you think some of these top quarterbacks will end up going?
I think the lowest that I see Malik Willis, who is, in my opinion, undisputed quarterback one with his ability, with his arm, and with his legs. I personally see Malik Willis, the lowest I see him going is pick 6 to the Panthers. And honestly, the highest I see him going is pick 2 to the Lions, because I feel like that'd be such a Lions pick. I don't know what it is. The Lions roster is nowhere near ready for a franchise quarterback, but it's the Lions. They're going to take one anyway just because and ruin Malik Willis's career. I mean, they did it for how many years with Matthew Stafford? And now his first year out, he wins the Super Bowl. Not a coincidence, in my opinion. So I personally see that being a definite possibility that is slept on a little bit, in my opinion. But with all this hype around Trayvon Walker, I've doned down a little bit on that and really do see pick 6 with the Panthers, a team that, in my opinion, has the tools. They got a good wide receiver core, in my opinion, but a terrible quarterback situation where you have the ghost whisperer, good old Sam Darnold, mixed with a little bit of Cam Newton somewhere out there doing absolutely insane workouts in wherever gym he's hiding in. And then I think you throw in Malik Willis there, you got a pretty good offense, in my opinion. For Kenny Pickett, I personally like the pick of the Saints to get him, because I feel like that is a situation where they do not have to play him right away, because I think they have 2 options ahead of him in Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston to play them before him. Now, I know that may not be what Saints fans want to hear. We're drafting a quarterback with pick 16 or pick 19, and we want him to play right away. That's not how it's going to probably work out. But I feel like that's sometimes the right thing to do. I think Kenny Pickett will need a year to groom and grow under the coaching tree, the new coaching tree, especially with the New Orleans Saints. The sleeper guy that I have being picked in the last pick of the first round is Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati. I have the Lions. That's where I see the Lions taking their guy. Now, Desmond Ritter, I think he has a chance to be good, but it may take him a bit. It may take him a year, maybe a year and a half to really fully be ready to take the job. But I feel like if you are the Lions, that is a much safer bet, in my opinion, than taking Malik Willis at pick 2. I think if you take Malik Willis at pick 2, you are putting yourself in a corner to where now Lions fans are not going to want to wait to see him play and watch Jared Goff just absolutely just suck. I'm sorry. I can't find a lack of a better term for it. Whereas if you draft Desmond Ritter at pick 32, you have that leverage of like, all right, we can reasonably wait for him to get better and groom, build this roster out a little bit more. And when he is ready to take the job, that is when we tend the keys over to him, and he has a much better roster to do it with. Those are the only quarterbacks I see going in the first round. I could possibly see Matt Corral going, but I think a lot of teams are scared off that injury. The team I would say has the best chance taking him would probably be the Steelers at 20. I know they have other needs, but still I think just sounds like a pick they would do. They take Matt Corral at quarterback, and then they just ride it out with Mitch Trubisky for one bad year, in my opinion. And then they're right back to winning football games again with Corral. I like him a lot. And then I've heard Sam Howell's name. I don't even know if I take him with a day 2 pick. He reminds me of a little bit worse Baker Mayfield. Like his skill set. I mean, he had that great freshman year at UNC and then just completely fell off a cliff. Like he just kept getting worse and worse every single year. And that's not something you're really supposed to want to have happen to you in the college level, let alone in the ACC. So it's like one of those things where I think he has an outside shot. It's just I don't think he's going to be a franchise quarterback. I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets picked and then just kind of fades off into the land of obscurity, kind of like a Josh Rosen, of course, not on the same level, but just one of those guys where I just don't really see him having a genuine future in the NFL.
I could see all 5 being taken in the first round, and it's one of those situations. Yeah. I feel like these quarterbacks, 80% are going to be a bust. Like this quarterback class, I don't think is nearly as good as some of these years prior, like 2020, with Burrow and Herbert. But when you look at it, teams are desperate to get a quarterback. If you got a good quarterback, I mean, you're in good shape. You need a good quarterback, then you can get your other pieces around him. And I feel like you talked about Pickett and Malik Willis. I would swap those. I think Pickett goes to the Panthers. I've been saying it for months. Pickett, to me, I feel like has the most potential out of all the quarterbacks. He reminds me not as good Herbert, but I feel like if he has a little bit of time to, set a little bit, I think it could be pretty good. With Pickett, something I think is interesting. It's been talked about a lot more as we get close to the draft. But one of my things with Pickett going to Carolina, Pickett committed to Temple when Matt Rule was the head coach at Temple. I feel like that's something to maybe look at. There's a connection there. And I think he's the best quarterback in the class. I know it's certainly debatable. Malik Willis, I had him going to the Saints, and it's interesting because when the Saints traded up, it's like, they're going to get an offense tackle, to replace Teron Armstead. Maybe they'll get Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. Maybe they get a wide receiver because Michael Thomas didn't play a single down this past season. Maybe they get Chris Olave or just upgrade the wide receiver group. But I feel like Malik Willis is there at 16. It's one of those situations. The Saints aren't going into the draft like, we're dead set on taking quarterback. I feel like Malik Willis just kind of falls into their lap, and they can't refuse to take Willis. They kind of have to. I feel like that'd be smart for them. Let's see here. I have a couple ones here. At 20, the Steelers, I have them taking Desmond Ritter. They like him a lot, and I think that'd be a good pick for them. I've seen some mock drafts have him being taken to the Steelers in the second round. I don't think that will happen at all. But the Steelers like him a lot. I've even seen some mock drafts have the Steelers trading up to get Ritter, which I don't know why they would do that. I think Ritter won't be picked before 20. I would be very surprised if he does. 26 is where it gets 26 is where it gets interesting. I had the Titans taking Matt Corral. I know lots of people aren't really talking about it. Ryan Tannehill is not nearly as good as people think. I believe he's 33 years old. He turns 34 in July. And we saw what he did this past season in the playoffs against the Bengals. He threw 3 interceptions. If he threw 2 interceptions, they would have beat the Bengals. He was the reason they lost that playoff game against Cincinnati, 100%. Look at the year prior. I believe he had less than 200 passing yards. That was against the Baltimore Ravens. And they still could have won that game.
And he also, you just mentioned that game against the Bengals. Sorry to kind of interrupt you there, but he threw the pick that cost them the game in that one too. And you're preaching to the choir here. I think the exact same thing. He's the vice of that team. They don't have a star quarterback.
And you look at it, and the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC this past season. Imagine what they could have actually done if they had a good quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is average. He's never been better than average. If you get Matt Corral, who I think has a ton of potential, and we both said if it was for injuries, would be drafted much, much higher. I think if Matt Corral is healthy in the NFL, he's going to be far, far better than Ryan Tannehill right now, even in his best season ever. So to me, I feel like that'd be smart. Ryan Tannehill has a ton of money this season owed, the Titans paying him. But after this season, it takes a down a little bit in his cap. But I think that'd be smart by the Titans taking Matt Corral. And then at 31, I don't know why. I just have some weird feeling that the Seahawks, Falcons, Colts, one of those teams, but more primarily the Seahawks to me. If Sam Howell, Desmond Ritter, or Matt Corral is available at 31, I would say more so Sam Howell is going to be the only quarterback still available at 31. But any of those guys are available at 31. I think the Bengals trade back. The Bengals love trading back in the second round. We've seen it so many times. I know it's a first-round pick, but it's basically like a second-round pick because it's the second to last pick of the second round. And the second-round talent. They've traded back to get Joe Mixon. They've traded back to get Jesse Bates. We saw them trade back to get Jackson Carman this past season. To me, I think the Seahawks make a lot of sense trading up to get Sam Howell. Like you said, he reminds me a little bit of Baker Mayfield, but a little bit more athletic, but not as accurate. And Sam Howell might not be the future quarterback. He might not be a great player for the Seattle Seahawks, but I feel like it's one of those scenarios. You have Geno Smith on your roster. You have Drew Lock on your roster. Both quarterbacks who really are unproven. Both of those guys are only a 1-year deals. And I think if you're Seattle, you kind of want to jump the Lions because you had the Lions taking a quarterback at 32. I think they jumped the Lions so they get that 5th-year option on the quarterback, which is very important in today's NFL. Having a kind of a cheaper deal compared to these $30, $40 million per season, deals like we've seen with Tannehill and Prescott and all these other guys. So I have Sam Howell going to the Seahawks at 31 with a trade back with the Bengals. And I think all 5 had the chance to go in the first round.
I definitely see that's a possibility too, but I'm going to tell you right now, I 100% agree. You said about maybe 80% of them aren't going to work out because even just comparing this year's to last year's, this is night and day. Like, I mean, last year, in my opinion, of the 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, I think all 5 of them have a good chance of being good. Like, I think, of course, I have no doubts about Trevor Lawrence whatsoever. I think he's going to be really, really good, just maybe not with the Jaguars. Zack Wilson, I think, is going to make one of the biggest year 2 leaps out of all of them. Trey Lance, I'm super excited to see. Mac Jones, I think, even though I think we've seen kind of what his ceiling is, I think he's still going to be a steady quarterback in the league. And then who was the 5th one taken? Why is my brain going dead?
Justin Fields.
Fields, yeah. Justin Fields, yeah. I think he's going to be incredible. Like, I think at the end of the day, when we look back at that, it's going to be Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields that are the 3 that really become stars in the NFL, where I think I haven't seen enough still of Trey Lance to really know if I think he's going to be a star or not, but I think the potential's there. And then Mac Jones, he's on the Patriots. He's going to win a lot of football games, even if he's not absolutely lighting up the scoreboard. So that's 5 quarterbacks that have potential to really be like playoff quarterbacks that dominate the league for a long time. That is something we've never heard of. In this draft, I see maybe 1 or 2 guys that could really be a true franchise quarterback, and that would be Matt Corral and Malik Willis, in my opinion. Kenny Pickett, I think, has a chance, but I think he has to go into a really good situation to do that. Desmond Ritter, I think, maybe, and then Sam Howell, no. Like, I just don't see it with Sam Howell, honestly. So it's going to be weird. And I think next year, some of these teams, if they need a franchise quarterback, I would wait till next year, because then you're going to have guys like Bryce Young. You'll have, I think, probably a Caleb Williams. I think he'll be able to be drafted. I like a lot that I think is going to get a lot of hype near the end of the season is Anthony Richardson. He's the quarterback for Florida. I think he's going to really rise up with his athleticism. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks taken in the top of next year's draft.
And when you look at the, last season's quarterbacks, you already mentioned those 5 guys who were in the first round. I don't think there's a single quarterback in this year's class who, when you compare this year and last year's, not a single quarterback this year is better than Zack Wilson coming out last year, in my opinion. I don't think there's a single quarterback this year, even Trey Lance, and Trey Lance was the 3rd quarterback taken. And that just proves there's a significant gap between these 2 quarterback classes. I mean, you mentioned Anthony Richardson. Florida's one of my favorite college teams. Anthony Richardson has a couple of starts. He's not even started the full season, but some teams already view him higher than some of these guys right now. And it just kind of shows, this quarterback class is not it. And talking about Pickett and Willis, I think Willis can be good. I kind of prefer Pickett, but talking about the Saints and Panthers, I really feel like whoever gets took by New Orleans of those 2 is going to have a better career. I feel like if Pickett goes to the Panthers, he's going to struggle and probably, he might not even be a starter 2 or 3 years. Same thing with Pickett. But when you look at some of these other teams, like the Saints and the Steelers, teams who have consistently been good for over a decade, whatever quarterback gets taken by those teams, I think will probably have the best likelihood to succeed in the NFL, because those are the best run teams in the NFL who need quarterbacks. You look at a team like the Lions, if you could take them by the Lions, there's a good chance. I mean, you might not be good depending on the situation, because the Lions have sucked for years and have not, handled quarterbacks good. I mean, obviously, you were saying earlier with Stafford, his first year out, he won the Super Bowl with the Rams. So it should be very, very interesting with some of these top quarterbacks will go. I mean, I'm less than 48 hours away now from the NFL draft. Absolutely crazy. So we're going to kind of do a mock collab here from PFF.com. I'll go ahead and pick the odd numbers, and you pick the even ones. So
all right.
Obviously, with the Jaguars here, pick 1. I'm going to be picking Aiden Hutchinson. I really don't think there's much of an explanation for that one. Pretty much everybody thinks Hutchinson's going to go to the Jaguars. So who do you have the Lions here taking number 2?
At number 2, kind of like what I said at the top of this, I think whoever the Jaguars don't take between these 2 guys, the Lions will take the opposite. I have them going Trayvon Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia, who has skyrocketed up draft boards with his athleticism and ability. I'm not a huge fan of Trayvon Walker. I think more of his skill set was shown inside of the defensive line rather than the outside, and he was probably about the 5th best player on that defensive line for Georgia. Now, that was a stacked defensive line that Georgia had, but I feel like personally this would be the pick from everything I'm hearing, that the Lions are going to take whoever the Jags don't, and I think that turns out to be Trayvon Walker.
I like that pick a lot there. And number 3 with Houston, this is interesting to me because I could see them going edge or offensive tackle, and whichever they don't go at 3, I think they go at 13. And Akeem Ekwonu is somebody I'm looking at, or also Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is the better overall player, but they could use offensive linemen. There was a reason why Deshaun Watson, the last season he started with the Houston Texans, he only won 4 games because he had a horrible offensive line. But to me, I always try to go best player available here. And even though on PFS Big Board they have Ekwonu 5 and Kayvon Thibodeau 7, I'm going to take Kayvon Thibodeau here, the edge rusher, for taken by Houston here with a 3rd overall pick.
Whew, this puts my boys in a tight situation here because that is the top 3 edge rushers right off the board for my guys. So with pick 4 here, I still am a believer that if this is the situation, the Jets will go best edge rusher available. Now, personally, I would see what Joe Douglas would be doing here in my mindset anyway, that the New York Jets would not have pick 10. They would have traded that away for Deebo Samuel. And with this pick, they would trade back with a team that's hungry to come up and get a quarterback and maybe do a little bit of pick swap. I think I see Seattle being one of those teams that tries to trade up and make sure that they get Malik Willis. So with that being said, but I feel like they would still pick this player really anyway. I'm going to say Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher out of Florida State. He is 23 years old. I do understand that there is some danger with that pick, but I think you get a guy that Robert Saleh takes passion in drafting his guys and developing them. Same thing with Joe Douglas, and Jermaine Johnson, I think, has a lot of potential. At 4, I do think it's a reach, but since it's on the board, I feel like this would be the Jets' pick. No matter what, I think they would trade back and go ahead and take Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State.
And I could understand that, and that's kind of the same way I am with the Panthers and Pickett. I've said multiple times, I think Pickett could go to 6 to Carolina, but I could also see them trading back and still getting Pickett possibly, because the Panthers don't have a 2nd-round pick or they don't have a 3rd-round pick. So I can see them maybe trading back, like you're saying, with the Jets and get some more draft capital. So the Jets take Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher from Florida State, with a 4th pick overall. 5 is New York Giants, and this is really interesting to me because, I mean, the Giants could use corner, and Stingley and Sauce Gardner are both available, but Akeem Ekwonu is still available as well. And when you look at it, you would probably think that the Panthers are going to take a quarterback, but you're not 100% sure. I mean, their offensive line is atrocious as well. And I want to take Akeem Ekwonu here because I don't think the Panthers are taking corner. So there's a good chance. I mean, you can get Akeem Ekwonu, and you still have a chance to choose between Stingley Jr. and Sauce Gardner. So Akeem Ekwonu will be the 5th pick here for the New York Giants.
And I like Icky. He is a good football player, and I think that's a good pick for the Giants. Now, pick 6, I think this one's easy. I think the Panthers will take Malik Willis out of Liberty. Provides both of the big arm and the big-time athleticism. The former Liberty Flame right up here in Lynchburg, VA. This man is an absolute superstar. I think he has the highest ceiling out of any of these quarterbacks, in my opinion. But that floor is also hanging pretty low as well. But the Panthers got to do something about that offense. They have a solid offense around it, but they need a quarterback to be able to get to those weapons. And I think Malik Willis, they'll take that swing.
That's a good pick there. I mean, Willis or Pickett would be a good pick by the Panthers. Like I said, I could also see them trading back. We're not going to do trades on here, but it'd be very interesting with the Panthers. And I've said this before, you look at the, top picks in the draft, like the top 3, you kind of have maybe a general idea. Like you don't know if the Texans are going to take, Ekwonu or Thibodeau, but you still have a general idea. It's going to probably be one of those 2 guys. When you 4, like you're saying, maybe the Jets take corner, but if Thibodeau's there, they're taking him. 5, I think the Giants take, an offense tackle or a corner. I think 6 is where the draft really starts because you don't know if it's Pickett. You don't know if it's Willis. I mean, they could surprise all of us and maybe take an offensive lineman. At that point, I mean, there's been lots of talks. The Panthers like Charles Cross and Mississippi State a lot. They also like Evan Neal a lot as well. And maybe they trade back as well. So I think, top 5, you kind of got a general idea somewhat. But I think 6 is where it really, starts to heat up. So the Giants took Akeem Ekwonu 5th overall. 7, there's Stingley Jr. and Sauce Gardner. It really depends on who you like more. I think you can't go wrong with this pick as long as you take one of them. I want to take Stingley Jr. here because I feel like, these past month or so, it seems like people have been sleeping on him, but as we get closer to the draft, I think he's going to go a little bit higher than some people are expecting him to be. So I have him going to 7 to the New York Giants.
Wow. Derek Stingley over Sauce Gardner. That is shocking, in my opinion, just how much love Sauce Gardner gets. I've seen any and every mock draft in the world, including a lot that we've done over on the Warzone, of the guys taking Ahmad Gardner as early as 4th to the Jets. And I'm not against that, but I would really have to have hope that Jermaine Johnson has to be something because they're picking him at 10. And also, that would be best case scenario if the Jets get Debo. If the Jets get Debo and they take Jermaine Johnson and Ahmad Gardner in the first round, I'm happy with that. I would be happy with that. But that Kayvon Thibodeau, man, if he's there at 4, they take like Jermaine Johnson or Ahmad Gardner over, I'm gonna cry. But anyway, the Atlanta Falcons on the board. I think this pick has been set in stone ever since Calvin Ridley got suspended. I'm taking Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. This guy's the best wide receiver in the draft, in my opinion. Good route runner, good speed, good hands, can make all the catches in the world. This guy has elite level potential, and I don't care who the quarterback of the future is for Atlanta. I honestly think it's going to be the first overall pick, and I think it's going to be Bryce Young. But a duo of Garrett Wilson and Bryce Young is scary, in my opinion. That's a fun duo, in my opinion. You're building for the future. Atlanta knows they're not going to win a lot of football games next year with Marcus Mariota as their quarterback. I think you get a guy that is going to pretty good, in my opinion, for his rookie year, and then a guy that's really going to take that step with an elite quarterback next year. So I think this has been the pick for a hot while, and I'm going to stick with it with Garrett Wilson.
I like that pick a lot. And when you look at I would say 6 to 10, if you had to pick one set in stone pick, I would feel like Garrett Wilson to the Atlanta Falcons is your safest bet. I like that for a pick. I like that pick a lot there. The Seahawks at 9, this is interesting. I'm kind of wanting to take Kenny Pickett, but we talked about 80% of this quarterback class is probably going to be a bust. I think the Seahawks are going to have a high draft choice next season. We already talked about, we have Richardson, possibly C.J. Stroud, the quarterback of Ohio State, Bryce Young. But Sauce Gardner's there at 9. And I don't know. I feel like Sauce Gardner's best play available. I live and die by best play available, so I'm going to take Sauce Gardner for Seattle at 9.
And Sauce Gardner to 9, that's going to have a lot of Seahawk fans doing a lot of backflips. That would be pretty impressive, in my opinion, for them to be able to get Sauce. At pick 10 for the New York Jets. Now, I personally don't think this is the right pick. With how the board has fallen, I think either the Jets should take Drake London here or trade back and get Treylon Burks. But from everything I'm reading, they are in love with him. So I'm going to say with pick 10, the New York Jets select Jamison Williams, the wide receiver out of Alabama. We know when he's healthy how good he is. Best receiver in the draft. As we talked about, if he does not get hurt, this guy, elite level speed, elite level talent. The injury, though, it scares the hell out of me personally, but I know a lot of people within the league don't really care about the ACL injury anymore. So I think Jamison Williams at pick 10. If the Jets don't get Debo, they're going to get somebody a lot like Debo and Tyreek Hill with speed and just athletic ability, and Jamison Williams.
I like that pick a lot there. I mean, even if they don't get Debo Samuel, you have Jamison Williams, you have Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Berrios, and you have, in my opinion, I think one of the quarterbacks who is not being talked about at all heading into next season. I mean, Zack Wilson, who has a ton of potential. Like that pick there a lot for the Jets. 11 to me is interesting. They could use wide receiver. I mean, Curtis Samuel, they signed him this past season. He was hurt some, but even when he was healthy, he did not do jack squat. Terry McLaurin is one of the more underrated receivers in the NFL, but he has a contract coming up relatively soon, and you don't know if they're going to pay him or not. This wide receiver class is very, very loaded, but when you look at the safety class, it's not as loaded. Kyle Hamilton, to me, is probably best player available. I think it is debatable, but it's kind of surprising to me. Like, when you look at, the players in this year's class, Kyle Hamilton's a top 10 player. But then you go and you do a mock draft, and how is Kyle Hamilton not in my top 10 picks? I mean, there's a chance Kyle Hamilton goes out of the top 10. It's 11 here. I'm going to take Hamilton to the Commanders.
I love that pick, and that's been kind of my opinion on it as well. I don't get the dislike all of a sudden of Kyle Hamilton, the guy we were arguing about. Could he be the first overall pick as a safety? I mean, all because he has a slow 40 time when straight line speed means jack squat at the safety position. I don't think it. When it comes said and done, I think Kyle Hamilton will be the best football player out of this draft. Just the pure talent that he has for the position is incredible. Which leads to pick 12 with the Vikings. This is a rather interesting decision here because I had them actually taking Derek Stingley, but Stingley is well off the board at this point. I think with the Vikings, edge rusher's not an option at this point. I think it's way too early to take George Karlaftis. So I'm going to say they take the swing at defensive tackle and select big old Jordan Davis out of Georgia. We know the talent. We know the ability of big Jordan Davis. He is an athletic freak. For a man that size, he should not move as fast as he does. But Jordan Davis does move that fast. So I think this is probably a very good pick. Him in that big purple uniform is going to be fun to see. And he's going to be eating a lot of people up in that purple uniform. I think he's going to be a very, very good football player. But I think he has some things to work on before he hits elite level.
I like that pick a lot. My last 2 or 3 mock drafts, I've had Davis to the Vikings. And I could see that, but I don't know. Like, I could definitely see Jordan Davis in Minnesota. I think if Steenley's gone, which he probably will be, I think that Jordan Davis and Trent McDuffie, the corner from Washington, are probably my 2 picks there for Minnesota. I like that pick a lot. So Minnesota with the 12th pick takes Jordan Davis. 13, who do they have? The Texans took Kayvon Thibodeau with number 3, and they get Evan Neal at 13. Holy crap. Like, that is insane for the Texans. And if you're a team, and when it shows your draft needs, and it says every position, and you get like the best players at the positions, I mean, that's when you know you've done a good job. And I mean, they have lots of draft capital the next couple of years. That's a great way to start a rebuild situation in Houston, improving your offensive line, improving your defense. I think that's best case scenario for the Houston Texans.
If Evan Neal finds a way to fall to 13, that's going to be shocking to me because I think Evan Neal is a top 5 pick. I think, honestly, he goes 3 and doesn't go past the Giants at 5. I think that if the Giants pass on him at 5 for Ike Ekwonu, no dissing Ike Ekwonu, I think he's a very good talent. But I just don't think – I think Evan Neal is he has the highest floor of anyone in this draft. Like, at his worst, he's going to be a Pro Bowl level tackle, a guy that you plug in and you forget about. Plus, also, if you got to think about, is Davis Mills our future? I think you secure that with Evan Neal at 3. But he goes 10 picks later at 13 here. You can't complain about that if you're the Texans. So the Ravens here at pick 14, I could see them needing tackle. I could see them needing defensive back a little bit. Maybe even a little bit of wide receiver help for Marquise Brown. And this is going to be a little bit of a shocking pick, but that's what I have them doing in this mock. I see them going wide receiver Drake London out of USC. Lamar Jackson needs a true one receiver. And I think while I like Marquise Brown a lot, I think he's the definite speed threat. They need a guy to be able to go up and high point the football. And when you got a receiver out there that is 6'5", like Drake London is, I think there's no way in the world, in my opinion, you can pass that up. Drake London, I think at 14 is a good solid pickup for them. And I think this is going to really change some things because this is going to give Lamar Jackson a genuine wide receiver 1, in my opinion, with Drake London, a guy that he can sling the football down the field to and trust to catch those 50-50 balls. So I like at pick 14, Drake London to the Ravens.
And when you look at the Ravens, they also have a wide receiver who I think has a ton of potential, and Rashad Bateman they got last year from Minnesota. And, I don't know. This just might be me. Like, I don't dislike this pick, but I feel like you can give Lamar Jackson all the wide receivers in the world, and he's not going to do jack squat with it. Like, to me, I do like the pick. I think wide receiver, because they still need wide receivers. I think they can possibly go defense tackle. Jordan Davis who's available. Maybe Trent McDuffie. Or even offense tackle. The Baltimore is one of those teams who, there's 3 or 4 positions just at the top of your hand they can maybe go after. So the Ravens take Drake London at 14. I do like that pick a lot there for the Ravens. 15 is the Eagles. This is interesting because I don't know if they're going to go defense tackle at 15 or 18. I could see them going Devontae Wyatt with one of those 2 picks, but I could also see them maybe going a wide receiver at one of those 2 picks, or maybe even Devin Lloyd as well. It's like when you look at some of these teams, there's 2 or 3 positions right off the top of the bat that they can go after. When you look at the Chargers, they're a team who could use defensive tackle. You don't know if they'll take Wyatt at 17. This might be a little bit of a reach. I'm going to take Wyatt at 15 to the Eagles.
Okay, that is interesting. He is a good player. I like that, but I feel like the Eagles will probably take, in my draft anyway, I have him taking Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. a linebacker. I just think he fits the scheme well, and I think he would be fit right in well with Philadelphia, in my opinion, with his intensity. But I like that pick as well, though. Pick 16 with the Saints. There's two directions I see them going with this, and it really does depend on how comfortable the Saints feel that a quarterback that they like is gonna be there at 19. And with the two guys ahead of them, I think they're in pretty safe position to go ahead and take another star wide receiver here or another offensive tackle. It really does depend on, do you trust Michael Thomas to come back and be healthy? I honestly think they should. I mean, the talent of Michael Thomas is undeniable in my opinion. And with who has fallen here to pick 16, I think losing Armstead, I think you have to find someone to at least try and replace him. So I have them going Charles Cross, the tackle out of Mississippi State, with their pick.
Like, you want to talk about best player available. I mean, he's number 3 on PFF Big Board. Like, that is, as of right now, we're halfway done with the first round. That's definitely the best value pick so far, in my opinion. Like, that's freaking amazing. I think Trevor Penning's overrated from Northern Iowa. But if you're able to get Charles Cross at 16, like, that would be insane. And you still got a chance to get a quarterback like, Corral at 19. Because, the picks in front of you probably aren't going to go quarterback. But next up is the Chargers. Looking at them here, their team needs are wide receiver, tackle, and corner. They signed J.C. Jackson in the offseason. Let's see here. Like I said, they were a team who kind of could go for defensive tackle. I could see them going wide receiver. I've seen some mock drafts have them going with Jamison Williams. Obviously, he was already taken. And with Justin Herbert, I feel like the Chargers are going to be one of the teams to beat this upcoming season. But if you add another weapon for Justin Herbert, that's just going to be so much harder for a team to stop this Chargers offense. I mean, this might be kind of risky or unpopular. I want to have Chris Olave to the Chargers. I mean, Keenan Allen's good. He's one of the more underrated receivers, but he's getting up there in age. Mike Williams on a 3-year deal worth $20 per season. But you can never have too many weapons for one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert.
That's a scary little duo you just formed there. Olave with his route running and athleticism versus with Justin Herbert. I think that's a pretty fun duo right there. Pick Eagles. Oh boy. Okay. I have some options here. I just really like this pick for them. I think they're taking him one way or the other. I think I'm going to say Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. I just like him in the defense. I just like him in the uniform. I feel like he fits the mold of what Philadelphia is looking to do with their defense. I have him going 15, and I don't think the Chargers would take him at 17. So I think Nakobe Dean's a safe pick here, in my opinion. You get a guy, in my opinion, that's going to be an absolute unit on the football field for a long time.
I like the pick there for the Eagles. And I feel like it's one of those situations. I could see the Patriots maybe taking a linebacker as well. And I feel like this, whatever linebacker the Eagles don't take here at 18, I can maybe see New England taking at 21. 19 is the Saints. They've already took Charles Cross somehow at 16. Not sure how that's, possible. That was an amazing pickup. Holy crap. Kenny Pickett is available. I completely forgot about that. My mind was set on Matt Corral. But now I'm kind of leaning towards Kenny Pickett. I don't think you can go wrong with these two guys. This is really interesting because I did not think Pickett was going to fall this far. Let's see here. I'm taking one. I just don't know which one. Give me Matt Corral. Let's mix it up a little bit.
Matt Corral, okay. I definitely would see more likely a Kenny Pickett in that situation, but I could also see Matt Corral. I think he's got a more explosive arm and a little bit more talent running the football as well. But Matt Corral, you're going to have to sit him about half a year anyway. Just go ahead and take him and let him learn while he's recovering from that injury. And pick 20, I'll just go ahead and take him off the board. Kenny Pickett out of Pitt. He stays in Pittsburgh. I feel like that'd be fun to see that happen. But Kenny Pickett, I feel like for the Steelers, that is a good pickup in my opinion because that gives you the extension cord of where you could go ahead and try the Mitch Trubisky experience. But it's either decide you want to keep bettering a draft pick or do you want to go ahead and try and win some football games, see what you got in Kenny Pickett. You can put him in if you so choose, or you can rest him for a full year and have him ready for next season. 100% up to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the NFL. And it certainly would be interesting to see the former Pittsburgh Panther rocking it out with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And I picked Corral to the Saints, mixing up a little bit. I think Pickett might be more likely, but Corral, like we talked about, was for injuries. He'll be drafted much higher. Pickett to the Steelers, that would not be fun. That would suck. Like, I do not want to see that happen at all. Being a Bengals fan, like, that kind of worries me a little bit because I feel like Pickett to the Steelers has potential to be very, very good. Hopefully that does not happen. Hopefully the Steelers pick a quarterback who's going to be a bust. But yeah,
what's the worst quarterback? Take Carson Strong at 20.
We'll take I forgot his name, EJ Brown or something like that.
What the hell even is that?
21 to the Patriots. I already mentioned linebacker. You took Nakobe Dean. I'm going to take Devin Lloyd here, the linebacker from Utah, with a 21st pick overall.
Okay, Devin Lloyd. Love that pick, but don't love it because he's going to the damn Patriots. Yeah, that's a good pickup for them. Devin Lloyd, I feel like he's going to be a really good football player for a long time. Would definitely be interested if the Jets decide to use some of those assets and trade back up into the first round and draft a Devin Lloyd. I would definitely be a fan of that. Pick 22, this has been my pick for forever for them, and that is for the Packers. That is Treylon Burks, the wide receiver out of Arkansas. They need to find a guy that can replace, or at least try to anyway, replace the impact that Devontae Smith had. And Treylon Burks, man, I can't say enough about how much I love him. Reminds me so much of Brandon Marshall with his ability to catch the football, get out in the open field, and also be strong in the same process. I feel like this would be a scary duo. Him and Aaron Rodgers, that is going to be fun. I don't care what anybody says. I feel like Treylon Burks here. I honestly would not have a huge issue if the Jets took Treylon Burks at 10. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but I just love Treylon Burks that much. But I have him falling to 22 here, and I think that's a great pickup for the Pack.
Yeah, it's an A-plus pick there for Green Bay. Great value pick there at 22. 23, the Cardinals. They could use some offensive line help. They tried to improve their offensive line this past season. They traded to get Rodney Hudson not too long ago, but he's not what he used to be. He's not nearly as good. And I believe he missed 7 games this past season. Kyler Murray will not stop talking, about, he wants an extension. Kyler Murray has not done anything to deserve a max extension like some of these other guys, like Mahomes and Rodgers. So if you want to, give, players to see if Kyler Murray can succeed, give him a good center, and that is center from Iowa, Tyler Linderbaum. I think that's a great pick up there, and I feel like, okay, you're going to improve the offensive line. You already have some good weapons. They re-signed A.J. Green, who was good this past season. DeAndre Hopkins, one of the better receivers in the NFL. Now is your year for Kyler Murray. Is your prove-it year. If you want to say you're one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, prove it. You got a good offensive line now. You have some weapons. That's the first time you've had a really good offensive line and a lot of weapons. And if Kyler Murray does not have a great year in Arizona, who knows what's going to happen next year. But I think they're going to give some more protection for Murray by taking Linderbaum here at 23.
I like Tyler Linderbaum a lot, but I just don't think the Cardinals should do that. I see them definitely doing that, though. God almighty, they need some defensive backup, though. Like, they need somebody to cover anybody. I was thinking there about Andrew Booth or Kaiir Elam, in my opinion. But at pick 24 now, this guy just screams Cowboys, just how much they talk about him. And that is Trevor Penning, the tackle out of Northern Iowa. I mean, you just got to look at this dude. Just look at how he's built, and he screams Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion. He's a big guy. He's very physical. He's very strong, and also does possess a little bit of that kind of, grittiness or just attitude of a guy that's really out to hurt you. I'm not a fan of him personally. I think he draws way too many holding calls, but at the end of the day, you need somebody to help protect Dak Prescott, and I think Trevor Penning will do that and go above and beyond sometimes, in my opinion.
That's a good pick there for Dallas. I mean, they lost Collins to the Bengals, and they also lost Connor Williams to the Dolphins. So their offensive line is not nearly as good as it was this past season. In Dallas, they take Trevor Penning, 24th overall. 25, the Buffalo Bills. I've had pretty much every single mock draft having them taking a corner, whether it's Andrew Booth Jr., Kaiir Elam, maybe even Kyler Gordon, the corner from Washington. But, Kyler Gordon's teammate here, Trent McDuffie, is somehow available at 25. I would say he's probably the best corner available. I think it's certainly debatable with him and Booth Jr. So I'm going to take Trent McDuffie with the 25th pick overall.
All right, I dig it. I personally would take Kaiir Elam over both of those guys because I just think Kaiir Elam just has that more overall game where McDuffie has a lot of the athleticism and Booth is a lot more of the vertical and athleticism as well, where Kaiir Elam, he is athletic, not as much, but he's just more of a smooth operator. him outside of Tre'Davious White would scare me a little bit. But Trent McDuffie's good too. I think that'd be a good pickup for them. Pick 26. This is a guy that early in the draft process, I would have loved the New York Jets to take 4th overall. That is George Karlaftis out of Purdue. The Titans need any kind of pass rushing help they can get. It is one of the worst pass rushing units in all of football. And George Karlaftis, I think, provides just a mean streak off the edge that I think would fit right in with how Tennessee and Mike Vrabel want to play defense. I think he has potential to be a really big-time player. I mean, I would have been fine if the Jets took him 4th overall very early on in the draft process. So I think that with that, his ability, I know he fell significantly in terms of that, but I think Karlaftis is going to be a very good football player.
That's a great pick there. And I've seen some mock drafts have him, coming, towards the end of the first round, which I'm not really sure, all of a sudden, this light towards him. That'd be a great pickup there. For the Titans at 26, Matt Corral is gone. So I don't think the Titans would take a quarterback at 26. So 27, you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Tom Brady coming back out of retirement, that was a really short-lived retirement, like 30, 40 days. But when you look at the Buccaneers, Ali Marpet retired. Alex Kappa signed with the Bengals. They need guard help. I could see either one, whether it's Kenyon Green, the guard from A&M, or Zion Johnson, the guard from Boston College. I'm going to go ahead and take Zion Johnson here, the guard from Boston College, 27th overall, because Brady has the weapons, but he needs an offensive line. You're not going to have a 40-something-year-old Tom Brady scrambling for his life. You need to give him a great offensive line for him to succeed.
And I definitely agree with that. I think that is a great pickup, Zion Johnson. He has more training with the triple option run offense, which I think was going to benefit him in the NFL. He's going to be able to really move and get after it. And he's played every single position on the offensive line at Boston College as well. The Packers at 28. This is an interesting one because they've addressed wide receiver, but I still think they could use a good linebacker or tackle, maybe even a corner. I think it's way too early for them to take an edge rusher, which I also think is a need. With this pick, I think the Packers decide to go on and take Kenyon Green out of A&M. I think he has the potential to roll over and play tackle if you need him to. I think they do that a lot in the NFL. It's just not talked about a lot. And I think this guy has potential to be very, very good at the next level, especially for the value you're getting at him at 28. I think I like Kenyon Green to the Packers.
I like that pick quite a bit there. And it's one of those things, they got their wide receiver earlier and Treylon Burks, the wide receiver from Arkansas. They get Lyman. And kind of the same thing I was saying with Brady. You can't have Rodgers, being sacked a ton, especially how old he is. So 29, back-to-back picks here for the Chiefs, 29 and 30. This is interesting. I think they could possibly go edge, safety, wide receiver. Let's see here. Andrew Booth Jr. is somebody to maybe look at there. I like Jalen Petrie a little bit, a decent amount. The safety from Baylor. But looking at wide receivers, George Pickens to me, if it wasn't for injuries, I think it would be a lot to be a first-round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if we, still ended up being towards the end of the first round. But the Packers and the Chiefs love George Pickens. And I think I would kind of be surprised if the Chiefs don't go George Pickens to one of these two picks here, if he's available. So I'm going to have George Pickens, the 29th pick overall, go into the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reach for me. I'm personally not touching George Pickens at all. I think his injury history is just way too scary for me to even consider taking him if I'm a team looking for a wide receiver one. Well, but him in that offense, that's going to be pretty impressive in my opinion. I would love to see what him and Pat Mahomes could do together. Now, I think pick 30 is where they definitely go defense. I think they go corner. And I think how the board has fallen, you're taking a corner. It's either Andrew Booth or Kaiir Elam, in my opinion, for how our board has fallen. And I am going to think they decide to take Kaiir Elam out of Florida. I think Kaiir Elam just has that overall skill set that I think NFL teams should be drooling over. While he's not absolutely insane at one thing, he is just good all around at all of it. Like, that is just the thing that you love about Kaiir Elam. A lot of potential to be a really good player, and at times was the only player on that Florida defense last year that played with any damn heart. So I think he's coming into the NFL. He's going to be a very good football player.
I like that pick a lot there. I feel like you said, Booth Jr. or Elon would have made a ton of sense. And whichever corner you weren't taking at 30, I was taking my Bengals to get at 31. Andrew Booth Jr., one of the best corners in the draft at 31. And this Bengals cornerback group I think it's good. It's a little bit underrated. Eli Apple, Bengal fans overrate him a ton. National media thinks he sucks. He doesn't suck as bad as people, think he does. But, we have Awuzie, Mike Hilton, Eli Apple. And one of our corners goes down. We do not have many good corners. I feel like getting Andrew Booth Jr. with a 31st pick overall would be great, especially when you're playing in a AFC who has so many good wide receivers and quarterbacks. This league is like pass happy now. You have to have great corners. So Andrew Booth Jr. goes 31 to the Bengals. I love that pick there. It's one of the only few picks I would be happy with the Bengals. There's only about a couple of other players I'd be content with at 31. Anything else, I want the Bengals trading back. This is one of the few scenarios I would be fine with the Bengals not trading back, and they get best play available in Andrew Booth Jr., the corner from Clemson.
And with the last pick of the first round, I see the Detroit Lions with how the board has fallen. I do have them taking a quarterback, and it will be Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati. I love Desmond Ritter's moxie. I love how he plays the game of football. I think he has a lot of talent and has potential to be a very good quarterback at the next level, but just not right away. I think it will take him some time, but the Lions won't have all the pressure in the world of playing him right away. They won't have that with the last pick of the first round. And also, you got to think of the history of that. The last pick of the first round. I know you're not a huge fan of him. I am, though. Lamar Jackson won an MVP out of that. I'm not saying the Lions are going to do that, and I don't think that's going to happen. Trust me, I'm not saying I think Desmond Ritter is going to be some superstar. Trust me, I don't think that. But I'm just saying that this could turn out to be a solid pickup, in my opinion, if it works out. I think you take that swing at 32 rather than 2. I think you go Desmond Ritter here for the Lions. Take a shot.
I love that pick up there for the Lions. Great value pick. One of the best picks, I would say, in this entire mock draft here. So we do a round 1 mock draft from PFF. I did the odd numbers. You did the even numbers. Looking at this mock draft here, so first couple ones are kind of predictable, with the top 3. So we're mixing up a little bit. Have a Jermaine Johnson 4, Kwanu 5, Malik Willis 6. Let's see what the other quarterbacks are. We have Matt Corral going 19 to the Saints, Pickett 20 to the Steelers, and the other quarterback taking is Desmond Ritter. The Lions, final pick of the first round. What's some of your favorite value picks here? Who do you think had the best draft in this first round?
In this first round, man, I got to say, I think the best draft out of all of it, I got to love what the Texans did in this, dude. I mean, you get Kayvon Thibodeau, who is the best player in this draft, in my opinion. You get Evan Neal at 13 somehow. That is absolutely insane that you get that level of value. You get probably the best player, in my opinion, the best edge rusher out of this draft, and probably going to be overall the best tackle of this draft. And you get them at 3 and 13. That is absurd. They would definitely win this draft if that's how it went down, and they would have 2 superstars to build their new franchise around.
And it's crazy because we're talking about Evan Neal at 13. We're 2 days away from the NFL draft. 2 months ago, Evan Neal was talked about being the first pick overall. Like, it is absolutely crazy. And, that is amazing value pick there for the Texans. I also love Corral to the Saints. I love Kenny Pickett to the Steelers. I think it's a great value pick, but I just do not want to see that happen. Any other team outside the AFC North would be completely fine with. Just do not want to see Pickett go to the Steelers. But that's a great pick there. And also, Ritter to the Lions. I feel like pretty much all these quarterbacks had great spots, and they're in some good opportunities. They were taken at the right spots. But I would say the Steelers pick it, and then the Texans taking Thibodeau and Evan Neal. We're just 2 days away from the draft. Like, it just does not seem like it. It just seems like we should be a couple weeks away. But, we kind of talked about, the Jets' plans for the draft. What's next for Deebo Samuel? Where do we think he will end up being traded? Both of us think he will ended up traded to the New York Jets. We talked about some of what these top quarterbacks will ended up being taken in the draft. And we also did a round 1 mock draft from PFF. So, Alex, can you kind of tell some of the listeners who can follow you on social media?
For sure, man. The Robson Sportscast. You can find it on the Instagram at the Robson Sportscast, and you can catch me on the Warzone Sports Network. We will be I'm not going to put words in any mouths because I'm not sure exactly what we're doing yet, But we probably will be going live and talking about the NFL draft, talking about the picks, probably making fun of what terrible pick the Raiders make, even though they don't have a first-round pick. We're just going to pick on Joe Morley about Alex Leatherwood last year because it was funny. We'll also probably mock everybody else's picks. It's going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it if it actually happens. But other than that, I'm going to be really looking forward to a project I got working on. Just finished up an interview for a school project of talking with one of Virginia Tech basketball's head recruiters. It's going to be a lot of fun when I put that out there. I'm going to show that off a little bit. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun. A lot of great stuff going on with the Robson Sportscast.
I'll definitely put the links in the description below so people can check out your podcast in the Warzone Sports Network as well. That about does it for this video. If you're new to the channel or you've seen this video before, my videos before, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hines Show.